Hi, everyone. Welcome to Angel Borrelli Pitching. I am Angel Borrelli. You are listening to Season 10, Episode 7 of The Fix. Off-season training. Do not miss this phase of your development. My favorite time of the baseball year is what I call the transition phase. It occurs immediately following an off-season training program, and it begins before the pitchers report for the team's preseason. It starts in the middle to late November when pitchers pick up a ball for the first time since the beginning of their off-season. In the transition phase, pitchers work on very specific skills. The pitchers throw flat ground for a few weeks and transition into an interval pitching program to get ready for their preseason practices. Everything they have done for the last 10 to 12 weeks during off-season training comes together during this 8 to 10 week transition cycle. It's a time to see the results of their training and integrate their bigger and better body with plenty of time to develop into what they can and want to become in the spring season. For this reason, the importance of having an off-season training cycle cannot be overstated. Seeing a pitcher return to his throwing and pitching seasons without any noticeable changes and improvement in his physique and skills is something that can be a huge downside to his development as a pitcher. So, these next months of late August through to the middle of November are critical months where the choices you make can have a positive or negative impact on next year's entire season. Finding a way to schedule an off-season training program is essential for performance as well as injury prevention. If you choose to keep throwing and/or pitching, you must adhere to an in-season training program, which keeps you where you are now. If, however, you choose to shut your arm down, off-season training opens up tons of possibilities for your future. So let's talk off-season training, its magic and its potential, and what it can do for a pitcher's development versus the limitations of in-season training. The magic of off-season training is that there is nothing like it because you're in complete control of your time and your calendar, and you are able to commit 100% of your physical energy to training. In season training has many constraints. The pitcher has no control over when he trains and how hard he can train because he is completely controlled by his pitching and bullpen schedule and the important need for full recovery between bouts. The potential of off season training is that it represents the intersection of where a pitcher is now and where he wants to be in the spring. Anything is possible, and programming is designed to accomplish huge goals in size, strength, and power for the pitcher's entire body. In season training, on the other hand, is designed to keep the pitcher safe and restore his body after and in between pitching. Restrictions within programming include controlling any possibility of overuse of the chest, shoulders, biceps, and forearms, as well as choosing exercises that are mostly designed to maintain range of motion and enhance recovery. Off season training is programmed in cycles that include all body parts, and the training is exhaustive and produces fatigue as well as soreness, all in the name of producing growth. In season training cannot produce fatigue or soreness, so to avoid the possibility of interfering with the pitcher's performance. There isn't a pitcher around that doesn't want to be bigger, throw harder, and be as much of a beast as the hitter he faces. There isn't a coach around who doesn't want his pitcher to be bigger, throw harder, and be as much of a beast as the hitters he faces. I think a pitcher cannot afford to skip an off season, no matter his goals or his calendar. Creating improvement between seasons is mandatory to have continued success, with results being a product of his timeline choices. Off season training is the only true avenue for a pitcher to bring together what he is now and what he wants to be. So let's talk calendars and timelines so everyone can get started with making a plan. To do a thorough off-season training program, there must be an ample number of weeks, usually 10 to 12, during which the body can make a significant and a noticeable change in its size, strength, and power capabilities. During an ideal off-season training cycle, the pitcher's training program has phases within it that are targeted to produce multiple outcomes. The first phase is a putting on size phase. An increase in the mass of each muscle is the primary objective of this phase, which in turn creates an increase in body weight. This is a perfect phase to enhance the pitcher's acceleration and deceleration muscles, as well as promote growth in the lower body. It also includes full restoration of imbalances and structural weaknesses that are usually needed in a pitcher at the end of the summer season. The second phase is a strength phase, which has increased loads and takes the larger muscles from the first phase and targets making the bigger muscles stronger. The strength phase should always be preceded by a size phase. And finally, the third phase is a power phase, which is defined as a cycle where you make your size and strength fast. Less than ideal timelines look like this. 8 weeks has reduced results. You would probably want to focus on size and strength due to the shortened timeline. Decisions about how to designate each phase would have to be carefully weighed based on the pitcher's needs. And 4 to 6 weeks would be the minimum for an off-season training program, and the focus would need to change to full restoration of the imbalances created during the extended throwing season, as well as regaining any lost body weight. A size phase would most likely dominate a 4 to 6 week timeline, and specialized programs would need to be designed to ensure that the pitcher's body is completely recovered. Now, there are two questions that I get asked most frequently. The first is, can a pitcher do an off-season training program even if he is playing fall ball, given that the demands are less and he doesn't pitch that much? Unfortunately, the answer is no. The risk of training heavy while also pitching or throwing increases the possibility of injury and should never be done. A second question I get asked frequently is about whether or not a pitcher can shorten the length of the transition phase back into throwing and pitching so he can make up for a late start in an off season. The transition phase starts immediately following off-season training and goes right up to the first day of preseason, which marks the start of team practices. During this time of the year, a pitcher needs ample time to integrate his new body into his pitching motion and work on all the details of his pitching, including his delivery, his skills, his velocity, the pitches, etc. This is a time when he has the privacy of working on his skill in an unpressured situation, and it is priceless and cannot be had at any other time of the year. Taking any time away from him doing this important phase obviates the reason for his off-season training in the first place. Additionally, remember this most important fact. Most pitchers, including MLB pitchers, are injured during preseason or the first few months of the season. You never want to be insufficiently prepared, and a solid transition phase helps you avoid this. So, in closing, please hear this take-home message. Pitching injuries are on the increase. IL stints are getting harder and harder to avoid, and the playing season overtakes a potential off-season more and more every year. The time away from pitching with an off-season training program and a comfortable re-entry transition phase are the most important times for a pitcher. The decisions you make about how to use these next few months have implications for the entire next year. No matter what schedule you choose to follow and how you design it, make sure your plan has time to restore, replenish, rebuild, and lastly, improve. I love hearing from you, so please contact me directly at angel@gymscience.com. And don't forget, my Strength Training the Elbow book has great arm workouts for both in and off season. Go to my website, angelborrellipitching.com, to check out a little preview. Thank you so much for being a listener. I truly appreciate it, and I will be back to you soon.